What highly drafted running back not named Todd Gurley has red flags around his health? We play a Yaman or 9 with the Packers wide receivers. Plus, you'll find out shortly whether you made it in to the 2019 FFPC Pros vs. Joes this season. And last year's Pros vs. Joes runner-up and main event league title winner Sky Eilers drops in to talk about the Patriots rookies, the Vikings wideouts, and much more. We've got a great show for you. Dave Gerzak is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy
broadcast live and heard around the world. You are now listening to the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. It's the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for football analysis from the best fantasy players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak.
With the master rhymer, that's the lead behind the video rapper. You know, the truck driver, tapper.
To each and every one of you Balkaholics and Gerzak addicts, welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. I am, of course, your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman, and my co-host is indeed the patron saint of fantasy football, the Dizzle, Dave Gerzak. Coming up on tonight's show, we're going to get to the latest news surrounding Tyreek Hill's 2019 availability status. We'll announce the 36 FFPC players competing against the 36 industry analysts in the 2019 FFPC Pros vs. Joes Challenge coming up next month. And a 2018 Pros vs. Joes and main event league winner, Sky Eilers, dishes on his Football Guys drafts so far this season, and much more. Feel free to connect with us on Twitter at HSFFhour, at Eric Balkman, at David Gerzak. Sky is on Twitter at Sky Eilers. That's SKYEILERS. Facebook.com/HSFFhour, 347-426-3682, 347-GAME-OVA. If you want to give us a buzz and chat with us tonight, if you have any questions, you can do that on these airwaves, or you can email highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com if you have any questions for us. We'll do our best to get to the tweets, emails, and phone calls in the fantasy feedback segment coming up later on in the show. It is a big night, Dave. We are roughly, a month and a half, 6 weeks out from the first Pros vs. Joes draft of the season, and people are just literally waiting with bated breath. The breath is bated.
Sounds good, Balky. Let's get to it.
You want to get to it? All right, we'll get to it. All right. So these are the 36 Joes in no particular order. We have, they're not in alphabetical order or what have you. I'm going to read them in sort of like groups of 3, so there should be 12 groups of 3 here. So I'm going to kick things off here, and if I butcher your name, I'm very sorry in advance, but I do the best I can. All right, so leading things off, the first 3 participants in no particular order in the FFPC Pros vs. Joes competition. Michael Edelman is first team in, and then a guy who is, I'm very excited to see his name on this list, Biplab Mandel is going to be in this year. John Gifford, of course, a longtime FFPC player in as well. The next 3, Kimra Schlischer, Stephen Hutcherson, and Matthew Treader. Welcome as Joes into the competition. Moving on, Mark Palmer, Jimmy Wagner, and Kurt Kikas all participating this year. Jay Reed, and this is the one I might butcher, Brian Petrunik. Dave, any help on that? Is it Petrunik? Is that your guess?
Sure.
All right. Patrick Beasley also. So Jay Reed, Brian Petrunik, Patrick Beasley. Ryan Poole, Timothy Skorecki, and Troy Wells also in as well, as those are the first 15. We'll get to the final 21 here. Gregory Cantor, Danny Mueller, and Adam Krautwurst all defending the Joes honor this year in the PBJ. Dave Scioto, Matthew Zimmer, Dan Williamson, welcome aboard. You are going to be playing part of the roles of the Joes this year. Jason Mitchell, Rich Rissinger, and Robert Gross all in as well. That is 24 to 36. Here are the final 12. Aaron Scott, Michael Apt, and Jason Preem are all FFPC Joes in. Chris Carlson, Richie Nishura, I think I'm pronouncing that right, and Ray Cowart all in. Here are the final 6. Richard Lowe, Ryan Kaler, and Shelley Fossum. Final 3, Richard Lane, Chad Schroeder, David Hubbard, all in. Those are the 36 Joes representing the FFPC. Thanks to everybody who entered the drawing this year. Those are your winners. You will be in contact with Darren Armani probably within the next, 72 hours or so regarding which date would work out best for you to draft. There's going to be 6 dates, 6 Joes, 6 pros in each competition, in each draft, and they will all be participating, playing for a 2020 free FFPC main event entry. So congratulations to all the winners, and I want to remind everybody, if you are looking for some drafting action, feel free to stop by myffpc.com. Plenty of best ball and classics going on there right now. Dynasty startups also forming, and you can check those out. I think there's some available starting Tuesday, but we'll have those going on throughout the next few months as well. Superflex double-ups, of course, always at myffpc.com. And don't forget about that early bird for the Football Guys Players Championship. Enter before June 30th, draft before July 15th, and you will get a free $35 team credit into your account. We'll do that up to 3 times for you this year. So if you're not taking advantage of that Football Guys early bird, I strongly encourage you to switch your direction on that and join up, because it is well worth it as we all start prepping for the main event coming up in the fall. Now, let's bring in tonight's guest, who did some pretty good main event prep via the Pros vs. Joes challenge last year. He is a gentleman who's been playing in a highly competitive fantasy home league for more than 20 years. He's actually a rookie dynasty player in 2007 when Adrian Peterson, Calvin Johnson, and Marshawn Lynch were all rookies that year as well. Give you an idea how long he's been playing dynasty. Now, 2019 is his 3rd season with teams in the FFPC. He plays the main event Football Guys Players Championship, and he has 2 dynasty leagues as well. He's coming off a season in which he won his FFPC main event league as well as his Pros vs. Joes league last year, including finishing as the overall runner-up behind fellow FFPC Joes Sean Isaacs and Caleb Alcorn. You can follow him on Twitter at Sky Eilers. Please welcome back to these airwaves. It is Mr. Sky Eilers. Sky, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight and talking a little fantasy football, man.
Hi. Yeah, thanks a lot for having me back, Eric and Dave. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if everybody remembers, but when you were drafting your Yosemite Sam Bradford team, I believe is what it was called last year in Pros vs. Joes, you actually called in, and we actually got a chance to talk to you on the show. So technically you've already been on. You're making a return to the show tonight, and certainly it's always sweeter when you can come back knowing that you have a main event league title and a PVJ league title under your belt.
Right, yeah. I'm hoping to have my best season this year, so you'll have to invite me again if I finish higher on the leaderboard for the main event. But I should say good luck
winning
to
it all, baby.
Right. So good luck to the pros in this tournament, because they'll probably need it the most versus this group of Joes that you put together.
Yeah, it's a talented field. It was a talented field headlined by you and Isaacs and Alcorn last year. As you guys, the only pro to win his league last year was, of course, Fantasy Mojo's Darren Armani. The other 5 leagues were all won by FFPC Joes. So certainly,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, it was hilarious. It was a very good performance by the Joes last year. And we'll actually get into a little bit. Before we do that, Sky, can you tell the listeners what you do for a living?
Sure. Right now, I'd say the biggest thing for me has been moving. I went from North Dakota all the way to New Mexico. So I'm in transition, but that has been a lot of work for a few months. I'm planning to go back to school in Albuquerque and study psychology. But for right now, I'm getting back to focused on investing online. I've got an account with stocks and mutual funds and that, but I hope to see the fastest growth with my fantasy football investing. I like what you're doing at FFPC, raising the stakes, top prize from $250,000 to $500,000. So I hope I can give my best effort this fall and also place in some DFS contests as well.
It's a lot of fish in the fryer, Dave.
Yeah,
for,
that's
for
fantastic.
Sky. Yeah.
Moving is great. I mean, Albuquerque, the weather's got to be a lot better in North Dakota. I know North Dakota.
Do you really? Oh, you do actually. That's
I've
right.
been there a few times.
Yeah. Okay.
Fargo and the like.
And now we got to get down to visit Sky and the ABQ, Dave.
Yeah, maybe we can tour the Breaking Bad sets with you, like all the other dorks they put out there.
Which, by the way, we love Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
And we are dorks.
Yeah, we are dorks.
Yeah,
Clearly, absolutely.
So anyway, back to
Yeah,
fantasy. Congrats on
that's
winning.
a great show.
Go ahead, Sky. Go ahead.
I would say I'm a little bit south of Albuquerque. I'm trying to avoid a little bit of that Breaking Bad scene, but no, it's great from watching that show. The scenery, the views, it's just really beautiful down here. And yeah, I know you guys in Wisconsin are, you know what I was facing there in North Dakota in the winter. So
absolutely.
So yeah, I'm excited about being here.
That's awesome. So you were the overall runner-up in Pros versus Joes last year. You won your league. You're just 40 points behind the overall champs, Sean Isaacs and Caleb Alcorn. I'm curious, how does drafting a league made of half industry people versus, then you have 5 of your own contemporaries, versus drafting the main event against 11, peers? I mean, was it different? How did it feel? I mean, did some of those, because the pros sometimes they just don't really know what the deal is with FFPC leagues and FFPC scoring or drafting best ball. Was it different? Could you notice? Could you tell?
Yeah, I mean, I think any time I'm doing a draft for the FFPC, it's going to kind of bring out the best in me from a challenge perspective, because it's going to be difficult to try to win. But yeah, I think with the Pros versus Joes, there were 2 things that I kind of learned a lot from it. The first, it was just a lot of fun. I mean, I don't know where else this kind of format happens, where the people that I follow on Twitter or read a lot of their information and research that they do, which helps me out. You get to play, in a league versus those pros, and then also sort of test your knowledge versus the people you're likely to play against in the main event or football guys competitions. Early in the season, I think it's a really good gauge to find out, maybe I'm right on the value of certain players, or maybe, I definitely need to take another look or, read a little bit more about somebody I didn't get to pick. So that's the first thing about it. It was just a lot of fun. So, I mean, I think if you start talking about $1,500 or more for a main event roster, that feels a little bit serious, and me or anybody can start to over strategize. But with my Joe's team, I just had nothing to lose. I had that underdog mentality, and I thought my rankings were pretty good, or just as good as any pro out there. So that team, that turned out being my highest scoring roster out of all the best ball drafts that I did, probably 25 or 30. So, and I forget what date that happened. I think it was late July. So, but that's the second thing. I want to do more teams where I stagger by the date, because I fell into that trap where somebody looks really good in preseason and then they're duds in the real games. Chris Hogan comes to mind, Royce Freeman. So hopefully, I can avoid that by doing some earlier drafts with the football guys. Oh, and then on my Joe's team, I mean, my best pick was James Conner. He was the 23rd round.
Wow.
So you kind of have to take some chances. And then for the main event teams, I tried to sign up for a couple earlier times, which should help there too.
Talking with Sky Eilers, who won his Pros vs. Joes League last year, the overall runner-up in the competition, also a main event league title winner last year. In the Pros vs. Joes, Sky, you didn't take actually a wideout until the 7th round when you took Jarvis Landry. When you were planning and prepping and putting together your strategy for how you'd attack that draft, was this part of it? Was it part of loading up on running backs and grabbing 2 tight ends in the first 6 rounds? Or why did the first quarter of your draft board shake out the way it did last year?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's also the reason I ended up second place overall and not first. because for some reason I took Ronald Jones in the 4th round instead of Juju Smith-Schuster. So I mean that sounds ridiculous now, but that was sort of the plan to take advantage of the wide receiver depth later, get those running backs early. But yeah, I definitely think I shouldn't be so rigid with a plan. If a guy like Schuster, at that time he just had a little bit of a knee problem, which didn't turn out to be anything, obviously. So, if a guy like him or another bigger name player falls, I think you should be able to, take that player even if he doesn't quite fit the position you wanted, especially when you're competing against 59 teams instead of 11. I think the Steelers offense versus a random Buccaneer rookie probably would have been sharper. But yeah, 2 running backs and 2 tight ends I think is normally a pretty good plan. I think you want to have them maybe within the first 6 rounds.
Well, interesting stuff, and it's always good to be flexible. Obviously, with this format, having the tight end premium scoring and the dual flex, Dave, gives you an opportunity to build your roster a lot of different ways.
Yes, and
I think that
building
they got
first.
first.
Go ahead, Sky.
I know they had Juju, so that was tough. I know early throughout the competition I was in first place, but as Jones and then another running back I took early, Deion Lewis, those guys weren't even seeing the field, and then the guys that ended up in first place, who had a great roster as well, they also had Schuster, so that made it kind of doubly difficult. But yeah, like I said, it was my first chance at Pros versus Joes, and didn't make it in to this round, but maybe next time I'll go from second to first.
All right, so Sky, in one of your football guys drafts this year, you selected Marlon Mack at the 307 over other backs like Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, Devonta Freeman, and Derrick Henry. My question here asked me to tell you to sell me on Marlon Mack as a top 15 running back this season. However, you're not majoring in marketing. You're running back to study psychology. So how does owning Marlon Mack make you feel?
Right. Good vibes. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
All good things. The carousel, put in the quarter, and goes round and round. No, I think he's the featured running back on the Colts offense, and I like that team a lot. Andrew Luck, T.Y. Hilton, Ebron, they'll be good, but they'll cost you a lot. I think with Mack, he looks like the goal line back. I think the Colts have probably the best offensive line, or at least top 3 or 4 in the NFL. And then in the draft, of course, they didn't bring in any competition for Mack. I don't think Spencer Ware, Wilkins will get many carries. And what they also did is kind of focused on defense in the draft. So, if the Colts play better defense, the game script favors more running. Yeah, I think Mack looks pretty good, and I went ahead and looked at his numbers from last year, and there were 3 games he had more than 20 carries, and in those games he averaged 130 yards and scored 5 touchdowns. So if you can get him in the middle of the 3rd round, there's some other good players available. I know Amari Cooper is a receiver I passed up. You got Aaron Jones, Devonta Freeman, Derrick Henry, but I don't know. With Mack, he probably won't catch many passes. Obviously, in the PPR league, you want that. With Hines there, we'll catch a lot of the passes, but yeah, I picked Mack in this football guys draft where I had Beckham was my first round pick, Kittle in round 2. So I feel like Mack can't. If he doesn't get hurt, right? Like if any running back doesn't get hurt and he plays on a good offense, he should be a solid RB for me.
Talking with Sky Eilers, who won a FFPC main event league title and a Pros versus Joes league title last year. In that same draft that we were talking about, your football guys, one of your football guys leagues this year, Sky, you went back-to-back with N'Keal Harry and Damian Harris, both Patriots rookies. Obviously, anytime with any team, playing time is always a concern. Why are you not necessarily concerned about the playing time for N'Keal Harry and Damian Harris in New England, given what you sunk into draft both those guys in this league?
Right. Well, Damian Harris is the guy who I was kind of, you have some regrets, I think, especially after these early drafts. But that all changed since the mandatory camp got started and Sony Michel hasn't practiced. So, I mean, I think the secret's kind of out now that the Patriots really liked Harris, and I did too. I mean, obviously, I kind of was more into dynasty leagues before I started doing the FFPC or DFS. So, I want to be careful and not, get too high on the rookies because people can get rookie fever this time of year doing those drafts. But, I think Harris, he wasn't, that much different from talent than Josh Jacobs. I mean, they sort of, as far as I know, kind of split the work there. He can catch passes probably better than Michel. So, yeah, I mean, when I was thinking about the Patriots, again, schedule is something I look at when I'm planning in May and June and trying to find, some kind of edge. Obviously, things change a lot. We're looking at it now versus when it's actually the playoff weeks, 12 through 16. But, the Patriots, they won the Super Bowl, and somehow I think they have the easiest projected schedule from start to finish, including weeks 12 to 16. So, and then the last thing, I haven't even talked about Harry, but, I mean, you saw what the Patriots want to do with Brady, who's now 41, no Gronkowski, no Josh Gordon. So, they wanted to run the ball in the red zone and have Brady just, kind of tear teams apart like a surgeon out there with the short passes. So that's where I think N'Keal Harry can fit in because he can play outside, win the jump balls, but he can kind of fill in that Gronkowski role, as the big receiver. And, I just don't think he's your typical rookie. He's been the 1-1 pick for me when I'm doing the dynasty research the whole time. And, I mean, I think he's only kind of expanding the lead over David Montgomery, who I've got as number 2. But I just think Harry's the best rookie. I think he can step in right away and make an impact because, besides Edelman and James White, who do they have to catch the ball? I mean, Matt Lacoste, Inman. So yeah, but just to kind of put it all in perspective there, I took N'Keal Harry in the 8th round in that draft, and I have him ranked as now this is not for a season league, but he's my number 10 dynasty wide receiver. So I took him in that Football Guys draft and as the wide receiver 38. So I don't know. I think that'll work out. I mean, he won't be Randy Moss, and that was 12 years ago with Tom Brady, but he looks pretty good so far.
What do you think, Balky? You like Harry?
Yeah, I do too. I think he's going to be solid for redraft. I like him for dynasty as well. No question, Dave.
Absolutely agree with that. Okay, let's talk about just a kind of a random question out of nowhere. Who do you like better as a mid to late round running back? More late than better late than never, right? Kalen Ballage behind the great Kenyon Drake. Well, average. I couldn't trade Kenyon Drake for a 2020 first in a single league. But anyway, or Dexter Williams behind Aaron Jones and possibly Jamal Williams. Not quite sure. What do you think? Kalen Ballage or Dexter Williams? Are we talking redraft here, Balky?
Redraft.
Let's talk redraft.
Right. Well, it really depends how much you believe in Drake or not. But I think Ballage could be really good. I could see him in maybe a 50-50 split with Drake. There's not many other playmakers there, although again, sounds like Devontae Parker is looking good without any defense. So yeah, I mean, he hardly got the ball last year with Gase, but now it's a new coaching staff. I mean, the offensive coordinator came over from the Patriots, so They should be able to move the ball. I don't know. I think Ballage, he's kind of like a poor man's maybe Kerryon Johnson or Chris Carson, like a bigger back, but he also can catch. So, yeah, I like him. The problem is it's the Dolphins, so they're not a team that that I really like. I did live in Costa Rica for a couple of years, 2011. So I tried to root for the Dolphins then because that's like their home team, but it didn't even work for me at that point. But yeah, I really do want to kind of try to stick to a team approach, so that if I like you said, if I have the choice between a Ballage or Dexter Williams, and actually I looked at kind of a couple other running backs. If I could get Jalen Samuels from the Steelers, or even Foreman from the Texans, I think I like those guys. But no, I mean, I'm thinking about running backs, especially that just tanked my teams last season. I mean, you mentioned I did have a good roster with the main event team, but I had several others that fell short, probably because I had either Leonard Fournette or Alex Collins, and those guys were on the Jaguars, the Ravens. I didn't like those offenses. I still don't. But if I could get, I'm really looking at a couple teams. I wanted to mention. At this point, I already talked about Marlon Mack and the Colts. I think the Bears are another one that their defense can't be as good. I think they'll keep improving with Nagy and that Chiefs style offense, and then Cleveland, and I like the Panthers too. That whole NFC South. I think if you're looking at players from the Falcons, the Saints, or the Buccaneers, again from like a psychology perspective, I just feel better, about those teams than Dolphins or. I don't know. It's even hard to say with the Packers. You guys probably have a better idea of if Rodgers can bounce back or not. But, I mean, even if he does, I think you got, Adams and Aaron Jones and, I don't know, maybe Scantling. But I don't know. Dexter Williams I like. But, yeah, I think I'm coming around to Aaron Jones. He's a guy that, yeah, it's kind of a toss-up, but probably between him or Marlon Mack. So I would say Dexter Williams. Well, I like him a lot better than Jamal Williams, as far as that goes.
Right. All right, that totally makes sense. And I like your team approach. And I was actually going to ask you a question about Adam Gase, but I didn't want to get depressing at all here. But I mean, I was looking at Adam Gase's coaching tree, and he worked for Nick Saban for 2 years, then Mariucci, Rod Marinelli, Mike Nolan, Josh McDaniels for a year or 2 years, John Fox.
He worked under all these guys.
Yeah. And then he was the head coach of Miami, went 23-25, never had a division championship, and lost in the one playoff game he had, and then gets promoted to head coach of the Jets. Guy's a total clown. No one likes him outside. I don't even know who likes this guy.
Right.
Anyway, there's not even a question. I was just ranting about Adam Gase.
Okay, but
his wife might like him, Jennifer Gase. God bless her.
I don't even know what his wife's name was. Congratulations,
Jennifer. I looked it up.
Can you imagine, because the Cleveland Browns had a coaching opening this past year. Can you imagine, would we be talking about the Browns in the same way had they hired Adam Gase instead of Freddie Kitchens?
I think everyone would be sad. So anyway, let's talk about the Browns. Let's keep it peppy here. So you picked Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham, and Jarvis Landry, and a couple of your football guys' drafts. So, and again, back to your team approach, this is a team that's totally on the rise. I think their season-long wins prop is probably to make the playoffs, like 9 wins probably. As we get later in the drafting season, do you see yourself loading up on Cleveland players? They're going to come at a price. I mean, are you willing to pay the iron price, as they say?
Yes, yeah, I am. Yeah, I think with Baker Mayfield, I mean, the thing about Odell Beckham, I mean, there's certain players that a lot of drafters they won't touch, based on past experience, and just the fresh start he has, just year 2 with Mayfield where he doesn't have to compete with Tyrod Taylor again. Crazy as that sounds, the was it Hugh Jackson or Huey Lewis, whatever his name is, thought Tyrod Taylor
and the news.
should start over Mayfield. But I just think if that team gets it together, and I just don't see any reason they wouldn't. They brought in the coach from Tampa Bay, Monken, I think Todd Monken.
Yep.
So kind of put him together with Kitchens, who kind of has the running back credentials. I just think they could score a lot of points. And then I think Cincinnati probably still has maybe the worst defense in the league. They play them twice, including, I see, week 14. Then they go to play the Cardinals. Murray versus Mayfield should be interesting in the very important week 15. They've got Miami and Pittsburgh there at the end of the season. And I don't know, even the Ravens I don't think are going to have as tough of a defense. They lost a lot of players. So if it all works out, I mean, I don't know that the Browns, from what I've seen so far, I mean, yeah, they're getting all the hype, but they're still in Cleveland. They're not East Coast. They're not, California. I took this last football guys draft, I did take Beckham, questionable or not. I took him as the first receiver off the board. I definitely like Mike Thomas. I definitely like Devontae Adams, Julio Jones even, but I don't know. I just think to get Beckham in that late first round or early second is not bad value, considering a couple of years ago he was one of the top, 3 or 4 picks. And then Kareem Hunt, I almost want to whisper it. Kareem Hunt, 8 games. He's only going to miss 8 games. He'll be there for most of the season. So, and there's also nothing wrong with Nick Chubb. I mean, I guess it's a situation. They're going to kind of hurt each other, but there's probably enough chances to go around. Like I say, when we talk about making that push up the tournament leaderboard at the end of the season, if you've got a couple Browns, whether it's Kareem Hunt, Jarvis Landry, the guy I probably shy away from is Njoku, but who knows? Maybe he's ready to do something. And Mayfield. But that's the thing. You do have to pay for Mayfield now as a top 5 quarterback, and I think one of the things I've noticed. It's always the case. I think quarterbacks go so late. You can get quality guys in the 12th round, 15th round. There's really no reason to take Mayfield that high unless, he's this year's Mahomes. So, but I may be alone in on that boat for now.
All right. Well, this is Sky. Thanks for that information. That's fantastic stuff. And so our final question. This is always one of our big ones, and we always use this for our own information. We need We need a reveal from you. We need a player you're staying away from in early rounds of drafts this season, as well as a sleeper that you've been targeting in the mid to late rounds.
Yeah. I keep wanting Melvin Gordon to be this great player. But I just think, you talk about some of those top receivers, early second round, late first round, or David Johnson, I think is really primed to come back in a big way. Maybe Le'Veon Bell. I mean, I think players like that I'd rather have versus Melvin Gordon. But I don't know. Week 12 is so interesting. Have you guys ever put in a note to the NFL like, hey, let's stop the buys at week 11? It would just cause people a lot less stress. Because last year I liked the Rams and the Chiefs, but
I was going to say we told them we wanted an 18-game season and only 2 preseason games, and they're working on it.
Yeah, and I've been blocked by Roger Goodell on Twitter, so I can't really get anything past
well, Matthew Berry still likes
the NFL. Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but yeah. So listen, it's on the list, man, of things we want the NFL to change, and when and if it does, you can attribute this podcast to being the Spark Plug, the linchpin for making it happen.
Well, if anybody can, you guys. So, throw some weight
chat
around.
Room to work on Blog Talk Radio, so
Then
go ahead, Scott.
you wanted somebody that I like as well.
Please.
So this one's on. He's on 2 of my 3 dynasty teams. So maybe I'm hoping that Adam Gase can figure it out. But I'd like to see Chris Herndon have a big year. I think he could he's got that talent to be maybe a top 7 or 8 tight end. I don't see a lot of difference between him and Evan Engram. Besides, I think Yosemite Sam Darnold is a lot better quarterback than Eli right now. Hunter Henry's another guy I think goes a lot earlier. But yeah, I like Herndon. And then I wanted to give just a couple deep names for maybe the dynasty listeners.
Sure.
Probably not Deontay Johnson getting some good buzz from the Steelers coaches who seem to do pretty well with wide receivers. I mean, he's not going to impact like Antonio Brown, but they say he's got Antonio Brown type skills. So Deontay, and then also Keyshawn Johnson for the Cardinals. Maybe it doesn't happen for him this year, but I do think they'll have to play from behind a lot. And it seems like Hakeem Butler, Isabella are always going to be picked a lot higher in those rookie drafts. But I mean, I think if you take the other Keyshawn Johnson, maybe early in like 4th round, or maybe really late in these best ball drafts, if you're looking for a guy in the 28th round, somebody on that Cardinals offense might be all right. But yeah, that's just I was gonna say I just used to you're talking about career and stuff. I used to be in newspapers, but that seems like forever ago. I studied journalism, but I do like to read. So I see some of these World Wide Web Google articles, and yeah, that's a pretty good way. Besides listening to the HSFF Hour, I mean, looking at some of the local local reports is a good idea.
No, that's very true. The local beat writers know what's up.
Yeah, and so does Sky Eilers. He definitely knows what's up. Main event league title under his belt. Pros versus Joe's league title under his belt. And overall finish in the Pros versus Joe's 2nd place last year. Sky, I know you expect even bigger things in 2018. We have no doubt that you are going to do your best to get there. Enjoy the draft this summer, and thanks so much for coming on the show this week, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm really happy to get the invite. I really hope to talk to you all later again.
Sounds good, man. We'll see you soon. Sky Eilers, ladies and gentlemen. Follow him on Twitter at Sky Eilers. Of course, going to be a force to be reckoned with in the FFPC main event this year. Dave, so exciting. It's a big night. We've named all the Joes, but we have some news to get to as well. And I want to thank Football Guys, Roto World, and Rob for tonight's rundown. Let's kick things off with your favorite player, just kidding, Emmanuel Sanders.
Your favorite player to make trade offers to dump.
And I got rid of him.
Did you? What did you sell him for?
He was in that Gurley trade.
What was the trade again?
It was first and second for Trey Burton, Emmanuel Sanders, and Gurley.
A first and a second.
Yeah, 2020.
Oh, you really gave him away, didn't you?
Well, listen,
you were mad because
I was fine to dump Gurley, but Emmanuel Sanders is the one that really hurt, Dave. And after I saw him on his Instagram today, he was running routes. I don't know if he saw this, but this is a guy who's coming off.
I could run routes too right now.
He was coming off a torn Achilles. He resumed sprinting last month, and then he started moving laterally. Now he is working in routes. He's 32 years old. I'm looking at the Broncos wide receivers, Dave. Do you have a favorite this year between Sanders, Sutton, and Deshaun Hamilton?
Oh, wow.
So no is the answer.
I don't.
You don't like any of them?
Not really, I guess. I don't really believe in Sutton, so I don't really believe in the Sutton breakout. Second year breakout. But
right.
I mean, it's almost like he has to be the guy, right? I mean, does it Noah Fant right away? I mean, that doesn't seem possible either. But there's going to have to be over 3,000 yards passing, no matter if it's Flacco or if he's not going to get benched. So I mean, I guess it's going to be Sutton. I mean, I can't possibly think Sanders comes back off the Achilles and does it. I can't do it. I'm sorry.
That's my input. There's been a lot of buzz about Deshaun Hamilton, though. A lot of people saying that he could be catching a lot of balls this year, a lot of smart people. So he's a guy I would look at.
Yeah, who are the smart people?
I think Evan Silva was one of them, if I remember correctly.
Pretty smart person.
Yeah, he's I was looking at him in the late second round of one of our dynasty drafts together, and he actually got snaked up before I could. Late second, yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah. Deshaun Hamilton? You have a problem with him I'm talking about dynasty.
Yeah, I'm aware of what you're talking about. I don't even know that he's rostered in every league in dynasty.
Well, he's not rostered in that league anymore because he was scooped up before I could even get to him.
Second round pick. I mean,
maybe it was third.
Where is he being drafted in redraft? I'm trying
to load that right now.
I have it actually printed here. It's actually embarrassing. It's printed because you can't use. About you when you have it printed. I don't have a Control F feature on the sheet of paper.
I was talking about somebody that the other day. I'm like, I wish I could Control F in like real life.
All right, FFPC drafts. His ADP is 181, 16.1. Yeah, that's in best ball in the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
Thanks, Fantasy Mojo.
Yeah.
Props to FantasyMojo.com.
All right, so you don't like any of them, but does the quarterback Flacco factor into that at all?
I mean, for best ball, Deshaun Hamilton in the 16th round, I'm sure that there's worse picks out there.
Yes, there are, my friend. Yes, there are.
First, for example.
Oh yeah, he just got signed by Detroit this week too. That's something I don't think it's on the rundown, but I feel like it's worth bringing up. Yeah, Emmanuel Sanders going at the 12:02 in best ball right now, and who's the other one? We already talked about Hamilton. Sutton, thank you. Courtland Sutton going at the 9:01. So FFPC drafters are selecting him at the 9:01. He is the first Broncos receiver off the board according to that. So that's Sanders. All right.
Until just recently, Tyreek Hill was going just ahead of Sutton until what you're about to read with the next news story.
According to NFL Network's Tom Pelissero, quote, barring any further developments, there is every reason to believe, end quote, Tyreek Hill will be back with the Chiefs before the start of next month's training camp. Johnson County Police stated that they are no longer pursuing any criminal charges against Tyreek Hill, who's obviously under investigation for the alleged child abuse. Chiefs still have banned Tyreek Hill from all team activities. Pelissero in this report actually says that he thinks the Chiefs are going to lift the suspension before training camp starts in July. Now, if that does happen, the NFL is still going to launch their own investigation into this, given that Hill has already pled guilty to domestic assault and battery. He was in college. He could still be facing a pretty long suspension from the NFL, and we know the NFL does not act quickly on these sorts of things. You saw the Ezekiel Elliott saga. Dave, I'm just curious, is this the definition of fake news that we got from the NFL today? Because I don't know if it changed much.
I actually disagree with you. I think it means a lot. So if the DA the DA is not bringing charges,
correct.
That's the news.
Yes.
So and there's been
they closed the investigation. Investigation over.
There was, and again, I'm sorry I might butcher this, but I read this on the Football Guys board. Something about I think it's called Munchausen syndrome or something. Did you read this? That his ex-fiance or fiance or whatever
where she's constantly bringing him in for
that she made stuff that she actually injured the child and then blamed him and made stuff up. And I don't know if this is true. I mean, there's chances. I mean, there's rumors about that she and her father might be brought up on extortion charges or something.
Oh my!
So I mean, there's a lot of smoke all over the place, and there is a chance. And everyone rushes to judgment. All the social justice warriors are rushing to judgment about Tyreek. Maybe he didn't do anything. You don't know. We weren't there.
But
it seemed like he did. Now, granted, okay, he had these other issues from before. But I mean, okay, so now let's just say this all went down. So how do you justify him getting suspended if you really don't have any proof that he did anything, and there's a chance that she did all of it? And now you bring up all this other crap from way back when?
Well, what about the audio? The audio that was released.
Okay, yeah. So the audio is bad, right? But what is it exactly? Is that in and of itself? If he didn't touch the child, is that a suspendable offense?
Again,
I don't know.
Don't shoot the messenger here.
No,
I'm not expressing my opinion.
I'm asking.
Here's the way I would look at it. I think the NFL. We've seen how they've treated abuse cases before. Okay, but hold on, let me just get this out. we know what he's done in the past, and now this audio comes up. That's a bad look for the NFL, and I think the NFL is more concerned about image than necessarily having the punishment fit the crime. That is not necessarily what I believe, Dave.
Before he entered the NFL. What
Right,
he's done in
exactly,
the
yes.
So
now listen, I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm saying that I think that the NFL will factor that into it, rightly or wrongly.
See, I don't understand how a person who did something before they were under the auspices of the NFL, before they were under their I don't know, whatever you call it.
Under the shield, Dave.
Yeah, under the shield. Yeah, what happened in college? You paid whatever crime it was. You paid the price by getting drafted in the 5th round. And then if something happened to the child, whether it was him or not, I'm not arguing for him, whatever. I'm just saying that if there's a chance that he didn't do anything, how do you punish a person with no concrete proof? If they don't have concrete proof that he did something, based upon something that happened way before, and then him making having a bad look in an audio tape that she taped. You know?
All right, now to your point here, let's say that that's what it is, okay? Then what if the NFL does levy some sort of suspension? Let's say it's a lengthy one, and then there's the appeal, and the NFLPA gets involved. Now you're talking about maybe he's playing amidst all this too.
He could be playing the whole season.
He could be playing the whole season.
Well, it gets worked on.
You know, and all of a sudden now he's looking like an incredible buy, Dave, in the 803, which is where he's been going in FFPC. The highest he has gone in the last 2 weeks has been the 207.
Well, again, that's fine, but none of that really matters based on the news that just came out today. So to talk about 2 weeks old ADP is a day old ADP is too old, in my opinion. Yesterday's ADP is too old.
Right.
I think he moves up a couple rounds, maybe 3 to 4 rounds. I think he starts moving up seriously. I would have to say now the odds of him getting suspended are still pretty high, but I think it's more like a 4 to 6 game suspension. And I do think he appeals it. I mean, if he appeals it strongly, his lawyer's making the case that he didn't do anything. And, they have the text messages, which are written in very appropriate, proper English, which is really funny, actually, because I doubt that he would text in that fashion.
Maybe there's an app for that.
Correct him.
Yeah, something like that. Like I need that proper English app for my text. They're an abomination.
I think there's a couple lessons to learn here, though. First of all, you don't sell players cheaply when bad news comes out like that. And a lot of bad trades were made. No, we don't know.
And especially when it's not an injury. You know what I mean? Where things can change in a Thanos decimation snap. That one's for you, Hudson Kernreid.
But by the way, I don't think that there's a chance that going the other direction, Hill's a total scumbag. He did it, and he's going to do something in the future. So I mean, he may be at one. This might be the peak of his resurrection, like Josh Gordon. He's going to fall off into the toilet and be terrible. So maybe now is the time to trade him if you really don't like him. So now if you don't believe in him, trade him now. He's moving up. But also then the people who took McCole Hardman, assuming that Tyreek Hill stays,
I was thinking about that.
That was a huge mistake.
Yeah.
I drafted Hardman in 0 leagues. I traded Hill in 0 leads.
Yeah.
So I feel like don't sell low, you sell high.
Yeah.
All right, that's it.
See it through.
And if you own him when it's over, it's over. It's too bad. Sorry.
What's the thing the first George Bush always said? Not trust the process, but it was something like, see it through to the end. I can't remember what it was.
Trust but verify?
No. I'm sure that was one of his things.
That might have been like Reagan or somebody.
Let's do a quick would you rather. I'm trying to up his ADP and get a feel where you would take him if you were drafting in an FFPC league right now. Would you rather have
FFPC like a classic or
best ball?
Oh, best ball. All right.
Okay, let's do football guys. In a football guys draft, would you take Tyreek Hill, or let's assume for the purposes of this argument, you're taking a receiver, Tyreek Hill or Julian Edelman?
I would take Edelman.
Tyreek Hill or Robert Woods?
Woods.
Tyreek Hill or Kenny Galladay?
Galladay.
Okay. We'll move down a little bit further here. Tyreek Hill or Calvin Ridley?
I think I'm taking Hill, but I do like Ridley, actually.
Tyreek Hill or Tyler Lockett?
Hill.
Tyreek Hill or Sammy Watkins?
Oh, it's funny. Same team. I'll take Hill.
Tyreek Hill or Cooper Kupp?
Hill.
Tyreek Hill or DJ Moore?
Moore.
Last one. Tyreek Hill or Chris Godwin?
I'll take Hill. I'm not as big of a believer in the 100 catches on Godwin.
Dave, you have safely put Tyreek Hill now in the early to mid-fifth. He is going at the 803 right now. So just like you said, moving up a few rounds. And you've just shown that's where you would draft him.
That's kind of assuming a 4 to 6 game suspension a little bit, but there's a chance. But that's a zero.
But it's all about using the information we have right now when we're drafting and making the best possible decision with said information.
In a football guy, in a national contest or a best ball, there's reasons to take him earlier, right? In a national contest, you're trying to beat all these zillions of people, right? So I think taking him earlier makes sense just to get him. Take him over guys like Galladay. That makes sense, right? And the same thing in best ball, because if he's playing 12 games or 10 games or even 8 games, it doesn't matter. He just starts those 8 games if he plays well.
All right, so let's move on from this discussion and talk about what we always like talking about in June. People who have lost weight.
Powell?
No, people. Oh, yeah, he signed with the Jets today. I'm excited for that.
Welcome back, Bill. By the way, Jets fans love that.
What?
They love Bill Powell, so they love getting him back.
Do they really?
Yeah, I feel like that's Adam Gase's best movies made since he got to town. Although I think they hired a new GM, so maybe somebody else.
Yeah, just today, the Douglas guy from Philadelphia.
Hopefully that's his first move. He's like, welcome back, Bill Powell.
You know what he should do next?
Yeah.
Joe Namath, special assistant to the regional manager. Yeah, and bring him back. All right, so NFL Network's Omar Ruiz is reporting that Rashad Penny has actually lost 15 pounds this offseason. And if you go back to his rookie year in Seattle last year, conditioning was brought up as an issue that Penny dealt with throughout the season.
By the way, didn't we say last year, before all these drafts, and Penny, we said he looks fat, he looks chubby.
I don't remember me personally saying that. You might have said that.
Yeah.
I never thought
a fat face. You're a running back in the NFL. You have a fat face. How do you have a fat face?
I never really thought he looked in all that great a shape.
No.
But I will say this, Dave. You know who else had a fat face, in my opinion, when he played in the NFL?
Lacey, your best friend?
Well, no, he actually didn't have a fat face. Marshall Faulk had a fat face, and he's been training. Penny's been training with Marshall Faulk, who is an NFL Hall of Famer. They both are San Diego State Aztecs. Chris Carson has been resting in OTAs, and so Penny's seen all the first-team reps at running back.
All right, I'm just going to read. He's been mentored by Marshall Faulk. He's not training with. Marshall Faulk isn't training with him.
Right.
He's just standing around.
Well, maybe
just to be clear,
tell you this.
Faulk's fat face has stayed in his fat.
Maybe Marshall Faulk's been chasing Rashad Penny around, and that's how he lost the weight. You never know.
Maybe so. That'd be good for Faulk anyway.
Yeah.
I like Marshall Faulk. Great guy.
What? Do you know him?
Yeah. I mean, we hang out all the time.
I'm being serious. Do you? Have you ever met him?
No.
Oh, okay.
He could be a total knob. He could be, the worst guy on the planet. I have no idea.
I think I told the story on these airwaves before, but I'm just going to.
Hey, I sold Nate Burleson sunglasses. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, works for NFL Network now.
Yeah, good.
I live in Appleton, Wisconsin, about a 2-hour drive north of Milwaukee, which is where my dad grew up, and my grandparents, who used to live down there, we would go down on trips to visit them every so often. And I would get there was an upstairs bedroom. It wasn't an attic, but it was sort of like an attic, and that's where I'd slept when I go down there. And they'd always wheel in a TV for me to watch.
How long is the story?
It's already too long, I know. They'd wheel in a TV for me to watch at night before I went to bed. And so I'm flipping the channels. I didn't have cable back then. And I was watching the Holiday Bowl. I believe it was the Holiday Bowl.
All right.
And I remember seeing this really fast running back from San Diego State. I'm like, oh, my gosh, this guy is amazing. I wonder if he's going to be good in the pros. And then I kept watching him. They piled up like 250, 300 total yards or something like that. And I'm like, this guy's going to be awesome in the NFL. And it was Marshall Faulk. It was the first time I ever saw him play as a kid. And I was like, he's going to be special. And he was.
Were you playing fantasy at the time or no?
No, I don't believe I was. I mean, like, I eventually drafted him, and he played on teams. Right. I just don't remember, I know I wasn't playing fantasy when he was playing.
That's awesome.
College.
That's actually pretty cool.
All right, Sony Michel. Let's before we get to Sony Michel, Rashad Penny. Are you interested in him? I was actually talking about Kevin Proctor, the Throwbacks franchise owner, FFPC player, about Carson versus Penny on the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, which you can still download at rotoviz.com/podcast. Penny and Carson roughly going right around like within a round of each other. He says sometimes he drafts Penny first, sometimes he drafts Carson first. Do you have a preference between the two this year?
It's actually a great question. I actually think both players will be fantasy relevant. They both will do pretty well. And you Mike Davis left, so you have all those receptions that are still kind of up for grabs, so to speak, literally. Carson's not a big pass catcher, so I guess I would sort of lean Penny, but I feel pretty comfortable drafting Carson as well. Actually,
Right.
I don't dislike either player, especially at both of where they're going.
One team in the NFL last year, Dave, ran the ball more than they passed it. You know who it was?
That was the Seahawks.
That is
and
correct.
they say they're going to do it again.
And it might even be worse this year. You know,
right? When your number one receiver is
Tyler Lockett,
like a guy who should be playing the slot. Yeah, that's where you're at. Who else do they have? So the
DK Metcalf.
Okay, so they have Lockett and like a guy who can't run routes.
Right.
And
yeah.
Stop.
The corpse of Doug Baldwin has retired, so he will not be there
Nick
anymore.
Van Nett at tight end.
He's a tight end.
Who else? I mean,
we
don't even know. Right?
I'll load it up. I'll load it up. They drafted Gary Jennings this year as well.
I've been getting him at like the 4th round of rookie draft, so no one likes him, of course.
Right. All right, I'm loading up the depth chart right now. So we're just talking about receivers, right?
Yeah, your receiving options.
Yeah, this is not.
Deron Brown is supposedly looking good. Whatever.
Right.
David Moore.
Oh, remember him from last year? He's a hot waiver wire pickup.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty bad. Actually.
Well, why invest in a position that you're not going to use? Based on their philosophy. I mean, they have.
I'm not going to argue. I can't.
They have Metcalf. They have Lockett, and that's what they're going to go with.
They spent money. They spent a good high draft pick on Metcalf. Just don't ask him to stop and turn left.
That's a higher one of Rashad Penny.
Don't turn left or right, Metcalf. Just go straight.
I saw your tweet. I need a good laugh. Anybody send me videos of DK Metcalf running routes like shit? That was hilarious. And it got like 40 likes or something like that.
People enjoyed it because it's true. Everybody's posting these things, and the funniest one I thought was there was someone talking about a water buffalo trying to stop before running off a cliff. That was so funny.
Yeah, it's not great. It is not great. All right, Sony Michel, let's move on. Now this is actually, I should have bumped this up, Dave. He's been absent from Patriots minicamp since May 20th. He has not been spotted. Hasn't even been seen there. Per MassLive.com, the reason for his absence is unclear. Now, you remember last year he battled that knee issue coming into the season. Big part of the reason why you and I didn't get him on a whole lot of teams. I think I had Michel on one team last year. And Damian Harris, as we talked about with Sky Eilers, is picking up a lot of buzz right now. Now you're looking at Harris's ADP going up. Michel's coming down a little bit. Is that the proper way to assess this Patriots running back situation?
I think so. I mean, you have to consider James White was actually a top 12 running back as mostly a pass-catching back. He's still going to be super involved. He's going to maintain that role. So realistically, okay, let's think about it for a minute. Are we fighting over a first and second down back for, albeit a super high-scoring team, where you don't really know what the outcome is going to be? I think that one could make the case that you should avoid both until it's kind of figured out a little bit. Because, Michel's not cheap. Harris is getting to be, costing a bit. This is just in redraft. I think in Dynasty, I took Damian Harris a few shares of him. I like him, actually. I think he's as good or better than Josh Jacobs, and that's how Alabama used him. Alabama used Damian Harris more than they used Josh Jacobs. He had a higher yards per carry. He was more productive, but yet all of a sudden now
had
Josh
an extra
Jacobs
year of
better.
experience.
And now who drafted Josh Jacobs? The shittiest organization in football. And who drafted Damian Harris? The best. I mean, so how hard is it, right? Anyway, go ahead.
That is I had not considered that. I was listening to one of the football guys' podcast. It was on the couch this week, and I think Sigmund Bloom said somebody asked John Gruden, or maybe it was Scott Barrett was talking about this. Somebody asked John Gruden about Josh Jacobs, and he says,
Are you doing a Gruden? Do a Gruden.
He said something like, I got to tell you, Josh, if you're out there listening right now, boy, you better be getting some rest because we're going to be using you quite a bit this year. You kidding me? And it's actually good news for fantasy players. It's great, and that's good if the Raiders can keep the ball long enough to make running the ball 4 or 3 touchdowns. Yeah,
they're going to be
I mean that's
even a bad NFL team is not that bad. But even a 4-12 team scores occasionally.
Yes, they do. That's the thing. Not that it scares me about Arizona, but one of the things. Not that I've been having nightmares and waking up in cold sweats about this, but it has occurred to me. What if this Cliff Kingsbury thing is
train wreck?
Yeah, like what if they run 3 plays in 12 seconds and then it's 4th and 12? And it's happening all the time. Like what happens then? You just got to wait till the fourth quarter for the garbage production?
Well, yeah, that's true. First of all, yes.
Okay.
But
I guess it may not matter.
I don't have the stats in front of me, but Chip Kelly, for all of his not success as a GM, as a coach, he had a really successful offense. I mean, and granted, he was took him by surprise, but he had some high-ranked offenses when he was with the Eagles. Actually.
Right. Yeah. No, that's true. Okay, so that's the Cardinals. But we talk about how concerned we are with Gurley. I might be getting to the point where I'm as concerned with Michelle. I mean, I guess that's different because Michelle's going in the 4th round. But, I mean, Damian Harris is a 10th-round pick. Looks pretty tasty right now.
I actually agree with you. And by the way, so I told you I have this little hip issue, so I might be going to get these stem cell treatments in the Cayman Islands.
Sure. If
I see some really ripped 5'10", 225-pound black dudes down there, be like, hey man, what's your name? And so I have a feeling.
Oh, you don't have to do that. Just yell out, Sony.
It might be Sony Michelle or Todd Gurley. If I see you have dreadlocks,
right.
just like Gurley, I might have to, I'll put that out on the Twitter.
Scott Barrett actually on that podcast was saying he has an injury contact or somebody he knows that he trusts, and obviously if he trusts him, this guy's probably been right quite a bit. He said he wasn't as concerned with Gurley. He said he is actually much more concerned about Sony Michelle.
Really?
Take that for what it's worth.
That's crazy, actually.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Who said this again?
This is Scott Barrett, Pro Football Focus, who's actually going to be in the Pros versus Joes draft as a pro. Said that he was more concerned with the Michelle is the thing that we should be talking about, and the Gurley knee issue. He thinks that while Gurley's not going to be a bell cow anymore, it may not make a difference because Gurley's still going to put up good enough fantasy production to make him well worth it in the late 2nd, early 3rd.
Was that his article in the Pro Football Focus? I thought it was that it was just recently, like a day or two ago.
It might have been, yeah.
I feel I'm not trying to say anything negative about Scott.
It's a polarizing thing.
But I mean, the thing about Gurley that people don't, they say, oh, well, I project him to do this now. I mean, dude, you don't know. You don't have no idea what's going to happen. If Todd Gurley retired in a month or two, would that be the worst, craziest surprise of all time? I mean, is it impossible?
It wouldn't be the craziest surprise.
Okay, so what is the chance that Gurley retires before the season starts? 5%, 10%? I'm not trying to be.
Yeah,
I'm not
trying to be, but it's non-zero.
It's non-zero, right? I mean, they talk about black swans, right? This would be a black swan of the NFL. It's something, wow, we didn't expect it. It could never have happened until it happened.
24 years old.
I mean, it could happen where it's like, okay, well, I just can't run anymore. Yeah. And he was limping on the TMZ video. I still own 2 shares of Todd Gurley, by the way. I'm not trying to get anybody to sell them to me.
To your point earlier, don't sell on these players.
Well, I mean, I did sell 2 shares of Todd Gurley. I own 2 shares. I have Daryl Henderson with 1, and I have a free Daryl Henderson with where I don't own Gurley, so I'm kind of even on him.
Okay.
So whatever.
Fair enough. All right, let's get in a couple emails here, Dave, before we sign off. Let's go. Jim in Philadelphia, do you have a preference between Thielen and Diggs this year, or are you grabbing equal shares of both of them in your drafts? Thanks, guys. That's Jim in Philadelphia. So Thielen and Diggs, just to before you answer this question, Dave, I am looking at the ADP. Adam Thielen in best ball for FFPC 305. Stephon Diggs shortly thereafter at 310. They're basically going in the same spot. I think I prefer Thielen over Diggs, but it is razor thin.
Yeah, I guess I feel about exactly the same way. Thielen slightly, but yeah.
You're not targeting either one like, oh my gosh, no, he's the guy to own in this offense.
Yeah, I'm targeting both, but not either one in particular.
Interesting.
Yes, I like both, but I don't have to get one necessarily.
What a wonderfully cosmic answer. Target both, but neither. I feel like you should be at the top of a Himalayan mountain giving that answer.
Yes, I'm in Tibet.
Measure twice, cut once. All right.
Yes, monks say that
right,
often.
Exactly.
And carpenters.
Yeah, Lou in Poughkeepsie, New York. The Eagles have a lot of talent for Carson Wentz, but I'm not sure they have any must-draft players outside of Ertz. Are you targeting any Eagles other than him in 2019? Thank you for the email, Lou in Poughkeepsie. Dave, I don't think I am. I mean, like this Miles Sanders, I think I've cooled on him in redraft. I'm not really excited about the rest of the running backs there. I guess Goddard you can get at a decent price in a tight end premium league right now. But I don't like Alshon Jeffrey. I don't like Deshaun Jackson. I'm not a fan. I think Arcega-Whiteside is not a guy I'm going to get. Maybe late in the best ball. There was a positive report coming about him a day or two ago, but I'm not terribly excited. I think Wentz is going to be all right, I guess. But besides him and Ertz, no thanks.
I want to disagree with you. I want to create an argument, but I can't.
No, that's fine. Bring the real, Dave.
I guess I might look at Sanders a little bit, but I think he's been limited in minicamp. So that's the only thing that always Yeah,
I'm pumping the brakes on guys like that. Of course, I did that with Michelle last year, and then that would have worked out if I would have drafted him more.
the Eagles organization, they say they don't care about your fantasy team. They really don't care about your fantasy
no,
team.
they don't.
So I just feel like the Eagles, it's kind of like a black hole of fantasy production. Ertz and Wentz, and that's it.
You want to guess?
The single syllable guys who ends with Z on the team. That's it.
Perfect. And that is your mnemonic device for tonight. You want to guess Miles Sanders' ADP?
606.
605. Damn. Wow. Nicely done.
No, thanks.
Very impressive stuff. All right, John in Bakersfield, California. Dear Duper and Clayton, I think I know the answer to this, but I want to cover my bases since Miami has a new offense and a new head coach along with a new quarterback. Are you at all interested in Devontae Parker with the positive stuff that was written about him these last couple of days? Fins up or down, ? That is John in Bakersfield, California. Thanks for the email, John. You're looking at an ADP of Devontae Parker again over the last over the last 2 weeks. 1502, but again, this report just came out that he was making all these plays a couple of days ago. Sky made
probably up 3-4 rounds, fine.
Sky made the excellent point of once again Devontae Parker looking good without defense.
Yeah, very true.
I am not interested, even at this price. It's tough for me.
So who's the quarterback? Fitzpatrick probably, or possibly Rosen.
Totally.
Is that right?
All the reports are saying Fitzpatrick is running circles around Rosen. Now Rosen's learning a new offense, but still.
I've not owned Devontae Parker at all, really. So I might take a poke at it. I might give it a shot.
Oh my God.
Yeah, okay.
Hell is freezing over right now.
The reason is that he's so ungodly cheap, right?
Yep.
Fitzpatrick is a legitimately solid. I mean, if you go on your MFL league and you take a look at points per game, Fitzpatrick is like 3 or 4 or whatever last year. And the guy, he puts up numbers, man.
Right.
He's going to sling it. I mean, Kenny Stills is interesting too. Albert Wilson, if he's healthy. I think you got to look at all those guys. I mean, aren't they all super cheap? I mean, the whole damn team is cheap. Hey guys, Gase left. I don't care if Balky's coaching the team. At least it's somebody else.
Right. It's Brian Flores. Excuse me, Eric Flores. Kenny Stills I had an opportunity to draft any Dolphins receiver, and that's who I took in a draft a week or two ago. I still like him quite a bit. I would rather have him than Parker. I'm not terribly excited about any of them. Albert Wilson, I know, gets a lot of love still.
Points per game basis last year: Mahomes, Big Ben, then Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Unbelievable.
Then Matt Ryan, then Andrew Luck, Deshaun Watson, Cam Newton, and Aaron Rodgers.
I was going to say, 32nd place, Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers, 8th. A good 3 points, or actually 2 fantasy points behind Ryan Fitzpatrick.
So if you drafted Rodgers over Fitzpatrick this year, you were the donkey.
Damn, I might have to. Ryan Fitzpatrick, man.
Oh, in best ball as a third quarterback.
Yeah. You get drafted.
For show.
You might have to draft Rosen around the same time.
Yeah. Then you got to invest in 4 quarterbacks. I mean, are you soaking?
Well,
are you soaking 1/14 of your roster into the Dolphins quarterbacks?
Well, it depends. It depends on if you actually got screwed or something, or if you didn't get your quarterbacks and if your number, you know what I mean? If you well, I'm gonna wait, and all of a sudden 12 go off. You're like, oh no, what happened?
Now I have Fitzpatrick, Rosen, Flacco, and Eli.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Then yes. Then you want 4.
Yeah, then you have to have 4. Hey, Cheeseheads, help me out on these Packers receivers under LaFleur this year. Can you play a Yaman or 9 with them? Tom in Fort Worth, Texas. Rob must want to get out of here. He's already wheeled out the machine. I am ready, willing, and able to play a Yaman or 9 with the Packers. I guess he just wants receivers, Dave.
All right.
Fire when ready.
All right, obviously Devontae Adams.
Yaman! I bet I draft him a lot. If you are drafting in the back end of the first round, if I am this year, I'm targeting him quite a bit.
Yeah, someone said 200 targets. I mean, that's crazy.
He had 169 last year, and Rodgers I want to throw to him more.
That's crazy talk. Speaking of more, Jamon Moore.
9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9.
What?
The guy can get open. I mean, he continues to get open, and he continues to drop passes. And drop passes and Aaron Rodgers throwing to you is not a long-term love affair.
All right, as George Jefferson would say, how about this honky, Jay Kumaro?
Oh, God. The reason for this is, you can get him super late, and Rodgers has gone out of his way in the past to praise Kumaro. So if you're in a best ball and you need some sort of lightning rod late, I think Kumaro's interesting.
All right, Marquez Valdez Scantling. Apparently mom and dad didn't want to change the names here, so.
I don't know why it didn't play.
Yeah, man.
Hold on. Hold on.
Hey, Blog Talk. This is like your chat room.
Something is amiss.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Oh, boy. Wow, you really like them.
Yeah, MVS. Saddle up and ride with Tim. I'm getting them everywhere I can. No, what's interesting is when Rodgers was asked about other pass catchers on the team. Well, he wasn't asked about. He was asked about Adams. So he wanted to throw to him more, and then he kind of meandered into other potential pass catchers. And the only two other guys he mentioned were Jimmy Graham and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So I think MVS is. I don't know if he's going to be the number 2 guy. I still think it's Allison. But, yeah, sign me up for MVS this year in a best ball.
MVS bothers me because I have him near the bottom of my, he's like the 23rd or 24th guy in a 22-man dynasty roster, and I'm like, I can just cut him. And now they heard the good news. I'm like, damn it, I can't cut him.
Trade him for a second rounder.
Not a bad idea. Geronimo Allison.
Already drafted him in one league this year. He has been running in the slot quite a bit. He's been the second receiver out there, number 2 receiver in an Aaron Rodgers offense. I don't care at what point in his career, still interested.
And whenever I say his name, I think of horses. Icomenius St. Brown.
9.
His parents they decided they mated for the sole purpose of breeding an athlete.
I don't know if his mom did. I know his dad did.
Well, she went along with it.
She went along with
the
it.
gag eventually.
With the gag. The ESB thing in that Ty Dunn story on Bleacher Report, how he got frozen out by Aaron Rodgers. We know Aaron Rodgers holds a grudge. I think there's too many other talented guys there, and he's going to have to just make a ton of plays to get to
Getting Rodgers good grace.
Thank you. Good God.
You know
like
what?
Short-circuiting over here.
Aaron Rodgers, yeah. You know what? We're all robots in some way or another. Free
think
will is a myth.
I think that's it, right? Trevor Davis.
Yeah, the show is over.
Night.
Wait. Yeah. Oh, were you talking about something else?
Two emails. I'm gonna go out of order on this because this other one is awesome. Rick in Hopkinton, Massachusetts. Can you guys give me your thoughts on what Ravens receivers to go after in the Baltimore offense that Lamar Jackson had no idea existed prior to OTAs? That is Rick in Hopkinton, Massachusetts.
That's a run-on question.
So your thoughts on, is it the rookies? Is it Marquise Brown, Miles Boykin? By the way, we may have answered this already. I feel like within the last, since the NFL draft, and I feel like you said, if I can remember correctly, I think you said Marquise Brown was the guy you were interested in.
Well, out of the two of you, draft the guy who's a first-round pick.
But I'm saying you can be interested in both of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think Boykin has a little bit more work to do. Marquise Brown is he's a pretty good baller at Oklahoma, so I think he's the guy I would try and get.
What about the foot thing? Does that concern you at all?
Yeah, it concerns me a bit, yeah.
Okay, so would it concern you enough, Dave, if you're looking at drafting a receiver in the early 14th round of a best ball and Marquise Brown was out there?
I would look at him for sure, and I would also look at Mark Andrews for sure. I think that they talked about Hayden Hurst gaining 20 pounds. I think that's for blocking purposes.
Yep, I totally agree.
And Andrews was he and Chris Herndon. I mean, if you can grab those two guys, those are your second-round tight end breakouts from last year that are going to come out. And you could take Austin Hooper. He's going to have the same 600 yards and crap and 4 or 5 touchdowns. Or
he had over 70 catches last year.
Whatever. Or you can have Herndon, much cheaper, and Mark Andrews, much cheaper. And you might have the upside beyond Hooper. There you go.
Chris Herndon is going at the 906. Austin Hooper is going at the 806. I don't know if that's much cheaper.
So it's 12 picks.
All right.
Okay, all right, fine. Mark Andrews is going at the 1209. And
he's still a value, but draft Twitter is bumping him up. Fantasy draft Twitter is bumping him up.
Keep it quiet.
Sigmund Bloom referred to, so Hayden Hurst, he's talking about putting on this 20 pounds of muscle. The very next day, he had a soft tissue injury. I think Roto World reported this.
That's so funny.
And then Sigmund Bloom on one of the Football Guys podcasts this week called him Hayden Hurts. And he had a foot injury last year too. I mean,
yeah.
No thanks for passing on that.
Plus, he was an old prospect. He's still an old prospect, and he didn't crush the combine or anything like that.
No,
but you should be dominating. If you're 25 going against 19 and 20-year-olds in college, you should be killing them.
Yeah, you should. The other thing I wanted to say, you will not take Marquise Brown at the 1401. Do you know who's going at the 1403, Dave?
Oh, yeah. In that case, it must be Andy Isabella.
Andy Isabella.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm taking Isabella.
So there you go. All right, finally.
But it's actually kind of close because, Brown, there's literally no one else in town there. But anyway.
Boykin. Willie Snead.
Chris Moore, Jordan Lasley.
Yeah, Lasley.
Michael Floyd, who I never drafted anywhere, so hopefully no one else did, but they did. former first-round dynasty pick Michael Floyd.
Yep.
Jaleel Scott, Seth Roberts, Jalen Smith, and other Joe Horn Jr. like 10th on the team.
Hey, what was Michael Floyd a first-round NFL draft pick too?
I thought he was picked 22nd overall. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe he was. It might be.
Well, you said rookie draft pick, but first-round rookie draft pick. I think he was a first-round NFL pick too.
Maybe he was 14th. I don't know. Where did he get?
Well, either way, he's still a first-rounder, right?
Yeah, he was a colossal bust.
From Notre Dame, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, final email, Dave, tonight. This is from. I'm not going to say who it's from. I'm going to read the email first.
First round pick, 13 overall.
Wow, 13 by Arizona.
Yuck. Yes, Arizona.
Now that I've been on the lam for numerous years, and my boating business has taken off out of the country, my business partner and I have really taken a liking to fantasy football. Do you think Nyheim Hines can back up his goal and get 1,000 all-purpose yards this year? Signed, Get Busy Living or Get Busy Dying. That's from Red in Zihuatanejo, Mexico.
That's really funny.
All right, so we have a listener.
So I guess these emails are all real.
I don't know. This could be somebody in incognito wanting to ask us a question about Nyheim Hines, or maybe it's the real-life Red from Shawshank Redemption. I have no idea.
Balky, by the way, there's only 6 teams left in the Midnight Football guys.
Oh, I forgot I got to commish that. Okay, so we got to wrap this up. All right, so Nyheim Hines, he said his goal this year is 1,000 all-purpose yards. Do you want to take a guess at what he had last year for all-purpose yards?
I bet it wasn't that far off. 850?
700 plus. It's over 700. Setting it at 1,000 this year with Marlon Mack, who I know Sky Eilers likes, but it always seemed, I owned him in a couple leagues last year. Always seemed he was dinged up. You have Jordan Wilkins there.
Let me interrupt you, though. When Marlon Mack wasn't dinged up, he was popping off 20 to 30-point games.
He was great.
He was killing it.
Yep.
Kurt he would always text me like, do you see Marlon Mack? Because I didn't own Marlon Mack on any teams last year, and I think he owned him on like some main event team that he was playing on. I'm like, no, I didn't see Marlon Mack. I don't own him anywhere, so screw you. Anyway, go ahead.
Hines at the 1104. You in business with him there?
I don't mind it. If I need running back help, a player like him or a Deion Lewis in that spot, or a few rounds later, Chris Thompson, all those pass catching guys.
Yeah.
Where's AP going, by the way?
I'm going to get to that in a second.
AP wants 2,000 yards.
Right. I'm going to get to that. 1703, actually. I saw the HSFFR tweet out this on Thursday that Adrian Peterson's the 1703 in FFPC.
2,000-yard back, 17th round.
Yeah.
How can you lose?
Plenty of ways. Nyheim Hines, 1104, or Justice Hill at the 1108. Which one do you like better there?
God, that's so tough. It's kind of interesting because
I think I'm signing up with Nyheim Hines there.
I think so. You have a known, right? And Justice Hill is an unknown, which he could exceed Hines, but I think Hines showed enough, and that he has to have a third-round back row. I think Hines, yeah.
If you're just if you already have a good core of backs, 4 or 5 running backs at that point, you want to shoot for the moon, go ahead with Hill.
I would take somebody else.
Take a receiver, yeah.
I would not take a running back.
But other than that, I'm going with Nyheim Hines. And I'm going to go home and commission Midnight Draft. I just need 6 more of you to sign up here. That is going to do it, ladies and gentlemen, for our show tonight. Thanks to Sky Eilers, Dave Gerzak, the FFPC, Rob Bryce, and, of course, each and every one of you. Congratulations to all the winners who were selected in the FFPC Pros versus Joe's drawing tonight. Certainly appreciate your patronage, and good luck. We'll be covering you guys, your drafts live on this show coming up in about 6 weeks, roughly there. Check out the Maiden Dynasties and the 2019 Best Ball Leagues at myffpc.com. Football Guys Early Bird still going on. Get your teams in by June 30th, draft them by July 15th. You will get a free $35 team credit for the first 3 teams you do that for. And your weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. That was broadcast live and heard around the world. Eric and Dave will be back next week with more analysis, interviews, and advice from a guest much smarter than they are. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk with you again next week.
We're on the seamless floor, even more so if we on tour. Me and E explore the country, wondering about the evening before. Trying to explain where the time went, while other rappers find a studio to grind in.
Dave, if there's one solace in the Milwaukee Bucks coming up short and getting to the NBA Finals this year, at least they lost to the eventual NBA champions.
Man, Golden State is sharding the bed.
They are not looking good at Oracle again. Toronto's going to win both these games. I said this earlier. I've been saying it on the show with Leo and Balky, which you can listen to on 95.3, 99.1 in Oshkosh, AM 1570, WSCO. You can also download the Score WI app at the App Store or the Google Play Store. I've been saying this. I think it's Toronto's year. All these shots are going in. Kawhi Leonard's playing like a man possessed. Their defense has been unbelievable. Sometimes you get a feeling, and I always bring this back to what you said after we said for many years that Peyton Manning would never win a Super Bowl because of his contract, could not get the talent in. And we weren't watching the playoffs together. There was one game, I had something going on, and I actually called you, and I said, well, how is that game going? And it was the Colts playing somebody in the AFC wild card or the divisional playoff. And you said, yeah, Peyton Manning looks unbelievable. Like just he's crushing, it might have been Baltimore or Sony, just crushing this really good defense. And you said, I don't know, man, maybe this is the Colts year. I'm like, and that's the first time I started considering Peyton Manning winning the Super Bowl. He won it that year. He got his first ring. And I'm like, oh my God. And this is the same way I feel about the Raptors. And I felt this way about the Raptors ever since they won Game 5 at Fiserv. I think this is their year.
Yeah, I think this is their 1 year.
And then it's Bucks, baby, in 2020.
Well, then what's his name? Goes back to America.
Who?
Their rental player.
Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, Leonard.
The alien.
Or whatever.
I said that too. Like the way that, like he'll get hurt and it doesn't affect him. He never seems to get tired. He guards the opposing players. And I said this on the air, I'm like, immigration is this hot button subject right now in America. Like, how come nobody's talking about we're letting Martians play in the NBA?
Yeah,
like, you don't even have to be born on planet Earth to play in the NBA. And Kawhi Leonard's example of that.
Nice.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Enjoy your weekend.